This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your source for the latest Iowa ag news headlines right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin.
Well, hello everyone from the nation's capital in Washington, D.C. on the Ag Matters PM program. I'm Dustin Huffman on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, coming to you from the nation's capital for the National Association of Farm Broadcasting's Washington Watch event. Should be a great time talking policy with ag groups, biofuels groups, and much more. Hope to hear remarks from USDA Secretary Rollins. Also going to be talking with Iowa Senator Joni Ernst, Iowa 3rd District Congressman Zach Nunn, and many more while we're here. So should be a good full slate of discussion. We're also going to see a presentation from the Beagle Brigade here coming up later on today as well for us and our broadcasting team here, again, from the National Association of Farm Broadcasting. Well, before I had a chance to leave, we had a chance to talk with Iowa Corn Promotion Board Director of District 7, Mr. Darin Proffit. We talked about how things are going with the planting up in his neck of the woods, I should say over in his neck of the woods, near Essex. We're here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and right now I'm going to be joined by Darin Proffit. He is the Iowa Corn Promotion Board District 7 Director out in the Essex area. And Darin, thanks so much for joining us here today.
Absolutely. I'm honored to be on. This will be interesting. It's been an enjoyable spring so far, so we'll get going. I guess I should say a little bit about myself in that I'm from St. Joe, Missouri, and kind of came up here and lucked out with the family that I work for now. So we farm here in Page County, a little bit in North Fremont County, have 20 head of cattle or so to keep us busy with that. And I run a DeKalb Asgrow seed dealership as well. So.
All right, so you're kind of on the front line of everything that we do in Iowa agriculture, and that's great. But we're talking today, first of all, let's kick off talking about the planting season. Obviously, we're going to ask how planting progress is going, but you guys out in your area in the last couple of weeks have already had kind of a rocky start, and thankfully, nothing really terribly crop damage-wise, but still you've had your own some issues to deal with already.
Yes, we definitely have had some issues already. There was a tornado 2 weeks ago yesterday that went through. I think it was about 19 miles is what they measured in distance that it traveled from northern Fremont County on into Page County and clipping the corner of my town in Essex there before heading off through the countryside. So that definitely put a damper on some people's plans. A lot of buildings were damaged, but like you said, we fortunately lucked out on our crop. There was a little in, but not much was up at that point. So the crop, I did hear there was some cows that were lost in that ordeal through the debris hitting them. So
unfortunately, livestock's one of those situations where you try to get them protected, and sometimes as we're getting ready though for the season, equipment can be out at times getting worked on as well. Have you heard any damage that happened to equipment while it was getting prepped for spring?
I didn't hear of any sort of, actually, let me take that back. There was a planter and tractor hooked up in a shed because of the storm that got damaged when the shed got deleted by the tornado, I'll say. So there was one guy that had to he hired in some custom planting to help him get his soybeans done. So I know there was a lot of harvest equipment damaged in a few sheds that were all parked away.
Just the stuff that you're going to have to deal with in that situation. Of course, I understand that. And so let's go ahead and go to planting conditions. We know Mother Nature's always, whether it's tornadoes or just rain shower activity, she's always got us at her mercy. How have planting conditions been for you guys so far?
It's been it was really exciting with how early we were able to get started. I just did the math a little bit ago, and we were 14 days earlier on the delivery date average from our seed dealership on corn going out the door this year. So we got an early start. Things were great. Conditions were awesome. None of my colleagues in the seed sales world were nervous about conditions like most years. So it was really nice to see that progress. And then we started getting showers every once in a while, no big deal. And now we're just getting rains about every day or every 2 days. Enough rain to kind of keep us out in the morning. Like yesterday, we got a 3/10 of an inch. This morning we just got another half inch probably. So it's one of those deals you never turn down a spring rain. I'm not mad about it at all, but it's put some waves in our planting and kind of spread out that risk actually. So it's not the worst thing. It's only May 2nd, so we're fine.
That's good to hear. I mean, so what are you hearing about progress? I mean, how farmers are there some that have gotten already done, some that are close to done, or has it been the rain been slowing things down that much?
I will say that even though we have had some rains, we're so far ahead compared to normal. There's guys that are definitely done with corn and using these breaks to switch their equipment over, or they've gotten their crops all in and they're focused on their spraying now. So it's probably the most spread out I've ever seen planting so far. Like kind of at this end of May, end of April, early May time. There's stuff going on in every direction almost. But I would say we're 80-90% done with corn down here in Southwest Iowa on the average, and probably 60 to ish, somewhere around 60% on soybeans are in the ground already, at least out of dealerships and in planters.
Iowa Corn Promotion Board District 7 Director Darin Proffit talking about what's going on over in the Essex area. We're going to take a short break and hear from our sponsor, and that will be the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, we'll send it back to the studios in Des Moines, and we'll hear from Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net to find out how those markets closed today. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
You're watching Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and it is time now for Closing Markets with Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net. Robin, first day of the week of trading, what did we see take place in the grains?
Well, it was not good. We had a lot of pressure came in on the market, primarily on corn. But when we looked at corn, soybeans, wheat in the closer nearby months, they were pretty much down the same, but we did have liquidation. Seems like some of the funds just decided to liquidate. Well, we got favorable crop conditions overall. Some farmers are really moving ahead on planting. There was one large farmer that we have contact with that planted 100% of his crop prior to May 1st. He says never happened before. And so that's what we're seeing here. And that's keeping things under wraps right now. We got lack of positive news. July corn, for instance, fell below the 200 moving day average, and now it's really close to testing the lows from back on March 28th. So it's not a good situation for this point in time, because there just isn't a lot out there now. China was reconsidering offering some new concessions on fentanyl to reopen some trade negotiations, and they did actually lift $40 million for $40 billion worth of retaliatory exports. It's not been disclosed per se, or at least in the access of what I had for what those all were, but so some things are happening, but it's not really enough to get the market excited right now. Now, planting progress, because we got favorable crop conditions. The estimates today are 40% done with corn. Last week we were at 24%, so we made some good stride there. Soybeans at 29% done with 18% last week. Spring wheat at 44% planted, 30% last week. Now these are estimates. Bear in mind they might be a little bit different than that. And the estimate for winter wheat crop condition is 50% good to excellent. So we're moving along. Okay, we've planted a lot more in a week's period of time than what we're seeing the progress right now, but it's moving along because We haven't had a delay per se so much that everybody had to get on the field, right away. There are some delays from some rain in some areas, but that's being viewed as positive right now. Export inspections came out this morning. Corn was above estimates at 1.608 million metric ton. The estimate was 1.525 million metric ton. Soybeans at 324,101 metric ton, below the estimate of 450. And wheat at 310,326 metric ton, below the estimate of 500,000. So we did see slower shipments or inspected for shipping in the beans and wheat, better on corn, but that had minimal impact or really no impact on the market movement today as far as the grains were concerned. So we're really not seeing much for traders to get excited about, and I think that's why funds liquidated some of their positions, put pressure on that market. We need to see some holding in that. We need to see some positive news, or we could be in for a little bit more weakness.
So that pressure on the grain side of the markets, did that extend to the livestock side of the markets today?
No, not at all. Cattle seems to be no ceiling in that market. I mean, they shot up today again over $2 on the front month live cattle contract of June, and over $2 on deferred feeder cattle. That was kind of an interesting scenario there. The deferred feeder cattle going out into late this year into early next year. They were over $2 higher. Packers really are struggling to find some cattle, it seems like, and they continue to have to pay record high cash prices in order to get them. Last week, Southern cattle traded at average, which was $5 to $6 higher than the previous week. And Northern dress cattle sales were at $350, $8 higher. So, and they haven't really been able to buy ahead for deferred delivery because the supplies are tight, at least what they can get a hold of. Now, feedlots are in the driver's seat, so they're asking higher prices, and we're really seeing continued good demand as far as box beef is concerned. At midday today, Choice was up $2.89 and Select was up $2.41. So we're still continuing to see that now. Labor or Memorial Day, I should say, is probably moving up into the biggest beef demand period of time. But when we're seeing these high prices, and everybody says that we're not going to stay here, but yet each week, each day, it just keeps on going higher. New record high prices are almost a broken record right now when you're looking at the futures. Now, the 5-state area prices continue to make weekly average prices continue to make new highs as well. So it just seems to be no ceiling there as far as cattle are concerned. Now, hogs, not quite in the same situation. Nearby contracts suffered some losses today. Deferred contracts were higher. Now, they came back from being negative earlier and closed just a little bit higher, not a whole lot. Really, the market lacks fundamental support and solid direction. Cash was lower this morning on the National Direct Morning Report, down $1.57. Typically, it is lower on a Monday. Cutouts were down $1.13. So technically, the market seems to be trying to find a base in here or some support. Technically, not fundamentally, but technically it does. We just, there's hope that there'll be a little bit more interest in buying for the longer term and not just scalp trading. And then that fundamentals will start to gain a little bit more of a foothold, and we'll see some of the cash and the cutout prices continue to start to move higher.
Well, Robin, an interesting day in the ag marketplace today. Thanks for helping us to navigate through it. What's the best way for our viewers to get in touch for more marketing information?
They can call me directly at 877-256-3253, or they can go to agmarket.net on the web. It's an 844 toll-free number there. They can feel free to call in, and somebody will be happy to help.
Robin Schmahl, agmarket.net, for closing markets here today. Robin, thanks so much for the time. Always appreciate it, and have a great rest of your week.
All right. Thank you. And thank you for having me on.
And then again was Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net. We're going to send it right back to the studios and find out how those markets closed. You can find those numbers on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network market screen online at iowaagnet.com.
July corn down 14 3/4 at 454 1/4. July soybeans down 12 1/2 at 1045 1/2. July soybean meal down $1.40 at 295.50. Soybean oil down 70 cents at 48.73. Chicago wheat down 11 3/4 at 531 1/4. Kansas City hard red wheat down 8 1/2 at 532 3/4. Minneapolis spring wheat down 1 1/2 at 609 1/2. July oats down 1/4 cent at 337 3/4. On the Merc, June live cattle up 255 at 213.65. May feeders up $1.12 at 296.07. May lean hogs down 70 cents at 92.25. Pork cut out when unchanged at $100.90. And May class 3 milk up 16 cents at 18.65.
That's been our closing market recap, and that does it for today's show. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com. Also follow us on Facebook, X, and on our YouTube channel. While you're there, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell icon so you can be notified each time we put out a new video project. Also, don't forget about the Free Market Podcast coming 3 times a day right to your mobile device, openings, middays, and closings, as well as replays of Iowa Ag Matters PM, Weekend Ag Matters, and everything we do at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. Again, all online at iowaagnet.com. From the nation's capital and the thunder that's beginning to roll in, I'm Dustin Huffman. Have yourself a great rest of your Monday. We'll see you back here from Washington.